Georgia is on fire. On the 27th of October, Russia secured one of its greatest victories in Georgia since 2008, when it stole 20% of the country's territory. According to the pro-Western opposition, Russia manipulated the results of the election, and the country is now going through some of the greatest riots it's had in a long time.
With the stakes this high, the controversy has deepened the country's political divide and left Georgia's path toward Europe increasingly uncertain.
Will Georgia give in to pro-Russia leadership, or is the country on the brink of another civil war? On the 26th of October 2024, parliamentary elections were held in Georgia. On the 27th, the results showed that the ruling pro-Russian government party, Georgian Dream, led by 54%, based on more than 99 districts counted. However, the results have been disputed by the opposing pro-Western government in Georgia.
Two credible, international, very experienced, separate polling companies showed exit poll results that had the opposition leading with a very wide margin of 10%. And yet we saw the Central Election Commission publish results that are the complete opposite, giving the Georgian Dream an unthinkable advantage.
To put into perspective, when the voting ended, two exit polls by Edison and Harris X for pro-opposition TV channels gave Georgian Dream 40.9% and 42% of the vote, with the total for the combined four opposition group put at 51.9% and 48%. However, when this same poll was conducted by the pro-government Imedi TV channel, Georgian Dream was recorded when was 56.1%. Adding to this were allegations that the ruling party hired political thugs to intimidate voters. In a statement given to BBC, an opposition official in a town south of the capital claimed that during the voting, he was beaten up first by a local Georgian Dream counselor, and then another 10 men came and he didn't know what was happening to him. But besides the claims made by the official, there have been videos of thugs allegedly stuffing ballot boxes for the pro-Russian party, plus allegations that voters for the Georgian Dream party were given 2 ballots each.
During our observation, we noted cases of vote buying and double voting before and during elections, especially in rural areas. We experienced 2 different worlds, one inside polling stations, where the voting process was in general well administered, and one outside the polling stations.
There were also videos showing alleged thugs from the Russian-backed ruling regime being transported into the capital of Georgia, Tbilisi, in tinted vehicles and storming the headquarters of the opposition party. The allegations of corruption run so deep that the Central Election Commission, CEC, has come under criticism for being too close to the government and for rushing through electoral reform ahead of the election without sufficient consultation. According to DW News, many Georgian citizens have grown tired of the ruling party, which has been in power since 2012, and are now demanding a change in government.
If the ruling Georgian Dream Party really wins, many young people will probably leave this country. At least here in the capital Tbilisi, I have met such people and they have told me exactly that. Why? Because the ruling Georgian Dream Party, which has been in power since 2012, does anything but bring progress, especially for young people.
There is also a conversation being held on Georgia's new system of proportional representation. The system dictates that all 150 seats of the nation's legislature will be awarded based on the total percentage of votes a party receives in a single nationwide election. There is also a 5% electoral threshold parties must cross to win seats. The problem, however, lies in the fact that in this particular election, no other party reached the 5% threshold. Georgia's president Salome Zurabichvili, therefore announced that she and her party will not recognize the voting results and called on the citizens to rally into the capital and protest the Russian influence in the election.
I do not recognize this election. This election cannot be recognized because it is the recognition of Russia's intrusion here, Georgia's subordination to Russia. I did not come to this country for that. Our ancestors did not live for this. We will not tolerate this. Nobody can take away Georgia's European future.
In response to the accusations made against Russia, the Kremlin's press secretary, Dmitry Peskov, stated that the allegations of election meddling were absolutely unfounded. However, on the 27th of October, the United States declared its position on the controversy. U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken revealed that the U.S. believes the pre-election environment was marked by the ruling party's misuse of public resources, vote buying, and intimidation, all of which contributed to an uneven playing field and undermined public and international trust in the possibility of a fair outcome. Blinken further informed the public that the U.S. joined calls from international and local observers for a full investigation of all reports of election-related violations and called on Georgia's leaders to respect the rule of law. They also asked the ruling party to repeal the legislation that undermines fundamental freedoms and address deficiencies in the electoral process together. However, the Georgian Dream Party is yet to respond to the United States' request. Tension is rising in the major cities of Georgia, and there are predictions that Georgia might be on the brink of a civil war. For years, the opposing party have been fighting for Georgia to join the European Union. Last December, this request was finally granted, and Georgia was listed as a candidate. However, in light of the sitting government's recent policies, the EU has referred to as democratic backsliding, their candidacy has been frozen.
Foreign policy dominated the election campaign as Georgian Dream has faced criticism for implementing restrictive laws seen as emulating Russia's approach to freedom of expression. The party's increasing authoritarian tilt led Brussels to suspend Georgia's EU candidacy earlier this year.
Surveys have shown that 80% of Georgians want their country to be a part of the European Union. However, if elections results remain the same, it's very unlikely this will be happening anytime soon.
This party is only officially pro-European, which you could see on the election posters. In reality, it has been implementing an anti-European policy, especially in recent years. It persecutes those who think differently by passing a law to protect against so-called foreign influence. This law has existed in neighboring Russia for years, and its Georgian version is very similar.
Georgia has been trying to gain its freedom from Russia from as far back as the 1980s, when their move towards independence began to gain momentum. However, it was not without challenges, and they suffered a great tragedy on April 9th, 1989, when Soviet soldiers brutally cracked down on a peaceful protest in Tbilisi, killing 21 protesters and wounding hundreds. But later, when the Soviet Union began to fall apart in the early 1990s, Georgia once again strived for freedom, and on April 9th, 1991, exactly 2 years after the slaughter at Tbilisi, the country finally declared her independence. However, 17 years later, Russia found its way back into the country. Russia and its proxies in South Ossetia invaded Georgia, marking Europe's first 21st century war. Although this invasion only lasted about 5 days, the Russian-backed army overpowered the Georgian military so much that to this very day, Russia still occupies about 20% of Georgian territory. According to the Atlantic Council, Russia's invasion of the country began with a cyber attack, disinformation campaign, and a full effort to meddle in the country's domestic politics. This might be one of the major reasons why the pro-Western party believes Russia meddled in the elections. And it's not just the party. Many citizens share the same belief.
I think it does not correspond to reality. It is not true because the reality is different, and everyone can see this. The results that were published are just lies and rigged.
However, in the speech given by the Prime Minister, Irakli Kobakidze, he made it clear that all the attempts to say the election was manipulated were doomed to failure.
Meanwhile, Irakli Kobakidze, Georgian Prime Minister with close ties to Russia, hailed the results.
The victory is so impressive and obvious. Among them, any attempt to talk about election manipulation in the conditions of electronic elections and unprecedented pre-election environment, of course. All their attempts are doomed to failure.
In the end, it's no doubt that there will be more accusations, DN debates, on whether this election was rigged by Russia or not. But for now, Russia is going to be celebrating this victory.